Clerk, please call the roll, please.
Chairman Rick Johnson,
Here.
David LaMontagne,
I'm here.
Vivian Picard,
Here.
Nicole Cover, not present. Donald Bailey.
Here.
Chairman Johnson, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, just a quick comment on when we get to the public comment part towards the end of the meeting, that is an opportunity for members of the public to comment, but there will be no feedback at this time. Your questions will be taken and the staff will deal with that at a later date. So please keep that in mind when you're speaking at the microphone. With that, we'll go to number 4, approval of the agenda. We need a motion for that.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Support.
It's moved and supported to approve the agenda. Would you please call roll? If there's no other discussion, I take it. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
David LaMontagne,
Yes.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes,
Motion passed.
thank you. Next, number 5, approval of the September 10th, 2018 meeting minutes. Is there a motion for that? If not, I'll move to approve the minutes of September 10th. Is there support?
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any discussion on the minutes? None? Go ahead and call roll. Okay, thank you. All right, we have Wellness Center before us. Comments? Motions? Decisions?
Mr. Chairman, this was tabled. I believe Mr. LaMontagne recused himself from considering this application. It wound up as a 2-2 push, and it was sent back to the state police for follow-up investigation on a couple of matters regarding some domestic assault that had occurred. And we did get that report back from the state police. In reviewing that report and the factual basis for the number of incidents that were involved there were quite disturbing in looking at that. In addition to that, there was some BMMR enforcement activity between that meeting where this was tabled on July 12th, where there was a complaint filed against some product that was sold as causing an illness, and there was some follow-up done on that. The initial product that was complained about, there was not a lab report on. What was represented as like product was submitted to a lab for analysis. Came back clean, but it was months later, so we're not even sure it was the same product. And the strain that was did have a dirty lab from another source appears to be considerably different, a different strain strain of marijuana. One was 21%, which was known to be tainted, but not known that it was sold to this individual, although that is the claim. And then the product that was sent in by this provisioning center came back at a 6% THC, which is substantially different. So I don't think we're comparing apples to apples on that. And I'm not so sure that that wasn't done because they wanted to make sure they got a clean test back. As well, in the enforcement report, there was summer, and as recently as last week, there's a social media post that clearly depict recreational use in contrary to what this medical law is.
Okay, anyone else?
I can clarify from the enforcement side, if that's okay.
Yes, go ahead.
A couple things. So go back to the laboratory testing and the complaint that we got on the strains. There wasn't evidence of the specific product of what the individual said that they were supposedly sick from did or did not fail tested. There was no test results that were provided to us. What they did do is they all their strains renamed and mixed together after the testing, so it was very difficult for us to ascertain whether or not something was or was not dirty in the future. We did advise them of stopping this activity and advised that they would, and told them on how to do that properly in the future and how to do it when they're licensed, if they should be licensed. Regarding the portion of the facility that was in an ice cream shop, we did catch this. The actual room itself was on the plans, but it was portrayed in a way that wasn't in reality. When we asked them about that, they did correct it, and they did wall off that room and create a stairs and create a partition. It took them a couple weeks. Eventually, they were compliant when we asked them to be compliant, and they did do everything that we asked them to do. And every time we asked them to do something, they take action on it. That's all I have from the department's point of view.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anything else? Does anyone wish to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to deny this application because the applicant is not qualified to receive a license under the Medical Marijuana Facilities Licensing Act. Section 402(3)A, the integrity, moral character, and reputation of the applicant, and the personal and business probity of the applicant.
Support.
Any further discussion? The motion is to deny State Line Wellness Center under 402(3)A. Is there anything else to that?
And if we can just have you clarify right in the motion what the specific reasons are. I know you covered a lot of it in your discussion, but so that we know what we're voting on.
The criminal history and the nature of it that was discovered in the state police report. The nature of the medical
Discussion? Any comments?
Mr. Chairman, I think we've got to pull this up in the, I don't have it in my notes. Can we make a motion to discuss?
Sure. Is there support for that?
Yes.
Okay, moved and supported to discuss CTK agriculture. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Carries. Go ahead, Don.
Mr. Chairman, in the LARA, or rather the application section background, there was quite a number of issues that they discovered, and based on their analysis of the information, I believe that there's a recommendation to deny this application based on the financial background, and I'm trying to pull it up on my computer for the actual thoughts on that.
If I could clarify, it's not a motion to deny. It's a motion. It is a recommendation. It's not a recommendation to deny the whole application. It's a recommendation that, based on our investigation, they do not meet the financial characteristics that were those categories that were specifically identified in our report. It's still a determination of the board as to whether or not to approve or deny.
Yes, thank you.
Any more discussion? Nothing? Okay,
Yep. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to deny CTK Agricultural LLC application because the applicant is not qualified to receive a license under the Medical Marijuana Facilities Licensing Act, Section 4023A, the financial ability and experience of the applicant, the personal and business probity of the applicant. Support.
I would also add that it's been moved and supported, so their discussion that we should probably include 4023C on the financial end. If that's okay with everyone, just to put that in with the motion.
Yes.
Okay. Any other discussion?
And again, we'll want some reasons right in the motion so everybody's clear on what the vote is.
Well, one is the fact that they don't meet the financial needs from the view here. The other is what Don mentioned earlier, personal and business probity, and to maintain a medical marijuana facility. Any more discussion? Go ahead and call roll.
David LaMontagne,
Yes.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
Okay, number 2, the applicant is Healing Organic Garden LLC. What's the wishes of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I move to that Healing Organic Gardens has pre-qualification status for a pending application.
Is there support?
Support.
Moved and supported to approve RK Agricultural Enterprises, a pre-qualification designation. Any other discussion? If not, let's call roll.
David LaMontagne,
Yes.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes,
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
thank you. Next is number 4, RKJL Enterprises for pre-qualification. Anyone wish?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion. The pre-qualification status for pending application.
Is there support?
Support.
Moved and supported to approve RKJL Enterprises. Any discussion? If not, then let's call roll.
David LaMontagne,
Yes.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes,
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
okay, number 5 is the applicant is Pharmaco Inc. Wishes?
Make the motion. Pre-qualification status for pending application.
Been moved. Is there support? I'll support it if no one else. Or do you want to?
You can support it.
Okay, I'll support it. Then, any other discussion? It's been moved and supported. Go ahead and call the roll for Pharmaco Inc. to be pre-qualified.
David LaMontagne,
Yes.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
Next, number 6, the applicant is South Track Management 2 for pre-qualification.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to move to deny the application.
Support.
We're going to need, again, a citation and some specific reasons to support that.
Get your pen out. I got 4 things. 40238, personal and/or business probity. 40238, financial ability and experience to operate and maintain a marijuana facility. 4023A, responsibility or means to operate or maintain a marijuana facility. 4023C, the sources and total amount of the applicant's capitalization to operate and maintain the proposed facility.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
And
Call roll to deny South Track Management.
Mr. Chairman, there were some factual basis listed under those statutory reasons that would, I think the Attorney General's been asking those to be stated. There's a paragraph that follows that.
thank you. That is what I'm looking for, some facts to support the statutory provisions as well.
All right, the applicant failed to provide adequate records to demonstrate an ability to operate. The sources of capital provided did not establish reliable means, and they failed to provide adequate records to support the financial transactions.
That
Thank you.
satisfy you?
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Attorneys are prickly.
I guess. Go ahead, call the roll.
David LaMontagne,
Yes.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
Number 7, 8 Mile Reserve LLC for pre-qualification.
Mr. Chairman, I move to deny pre-qualification for 8 Mile Reserve.
Is there support?
Support.
Moved and supported to deny. Do you want to
4023, the financial, does not have the financial ability.
And if you could again offer a factual basis so we know a little more detail, that would be helpful.
It was very clear in the background check that the person did not have the financial resources to support the application. I can use this one. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, further notes on that. The applicant failed to provide an adequate record to demonstrate the ability to operate a marijuana business in a compliant manner. The source of the capital provided did not establish a reliable means for the operation of the facility under the Act. The applicant failed to provide adequate records to support financial account transactions.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? If not, go ahead and call roll for denial of 8 Mile Reserve for pre-qualification.
David LaMontagne,
Yes.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
Number 8 is, I guess it's D Salvage LLC for pre-qualification.
Mr. Chairman, I move to discuss this application before we make a motion on approval
Is there
or
support?
disapproval.
I'll support it. Okay, all in favor say aye to discuss D Salvage LLC.
Aye.
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 No.
Passes 3-1. Okay, open for discussion.
Mr. Chairman, this is an application in Detroit that was involved in a police action in May. There was some confusion. I do understand that as far as what was allowed by the city versus what was allowed by the state, which was all in conflict, which is what is allowed by the law. And at the end of the day, whether it's the city or Laura making an exception to the law that it really can't make and allowing the operation to occur, I think you've got to go with the law, and that's the position I would take. And the law clearly states that this was not something that was allowed until it's licensed, which is where we're at today. Detroit Police Department conducted an investigation, and based on the city of Detroit's, and maybe there was some miscommunication in when they allowed them a temporary operation, because this was a grow operation, not a provisioning center. The city only allowed provisioning centers, but maybe through inartful forms that they used, the claim was made that that wasn't conveyed. But I still think that for me, you've got to go back to the law, and the law under 2008 makes this clearly illegal.
If
But,
I could speak
yeah,
to
I
that,
was
Mr.
gonna say,
Chairman. This was litigated by the defense attorneys for the employees that were charged in this case, and the court found in applying the statute and looking at the facts of the case that this applicant had temporary authorization at the time, and the court dismissed the charges. So the court's determination of whether or not they had authority at the time to operate was that they did. So that's what the court said.
And the court also noted the incredible mess that was made by Laura allowing temporary operations that aren't allowed under the 2016 law, which is why we're here, or the 2008 law.
If I could speak to that, there was no mess created by Laura. Laura acts upon municipal authorization. Municipal authorization was granted in error. The city determined after the search warrant was issued and executed that they had in fact issued a number of temporary authorizations that were not authorized under their ordinance. They then issued cease and desist notifications. They identified that to Lara, which was acting upon municipal authority in saying they had temporary authority. So this was not something Lara did in error. It was not something Detroit did in error on purpose. And the court determined that this applicant was authorized at the time they were temporarily operating.
Right, and the mess I'm talking about is allowing the temporary operation, because there's no vehicle in the 2016 law nor in the 2008 law for that, and that's what I'm talking about.
The temporary authorization is, that's an administrative rule.
No, absolutely,
Right.
it's an administrative rule, and an administrative rule can't supersede the law of 2008 that didn't allow for this type of activity to happen. Now, we're here to license these things going forward. That's exactly why we're here.
Right, under the MMFLA.
Yes.
And the administrative rules, the emergency rules that are promulgated under the MMFLA are, do need to be considered as being in place at the time. Whatever the rules were in time are the rules that apply to the facilities that we're operating under them, or that are going through the licensing process under those rules.
And that's where all the confusion comes in, is when an administrative rule takes precedence over a law that has been adjudicated, and that's why it's been so confusing for so many people.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we close the discussion and move to the vote.
Okay, move supported to close discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And is there a motion? By the way, I voted for that. Sorry. All in favor, or motion to close discussion, and do we have a motion for decision?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that D. Savage has met the requirements for pre-application status pending application.
Is there support?
Support.
It's been moved and supported that D. Salvage has been pre-qualified under, if we vote for it, I guess. All in favor, is there any other discussion first? Looking at the next, go ahead, call the roll.
David LaMontagne.
Yes.
Vivian Picard.
Yes.
Donald Bailey.
No.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 3 yeses, 1 no. Motion passes.
Number 9 is Comprehensive Lab Services, LLC.
Make a motion they have pre-qualification status for pending application.
Support.
Been moved and supported to approve Comprehensive Lab Services for pre-qualification. Any discussion? Clerk call roll.
David LaMontagne.
Yes.
Vivian Picard.
Yes.
Donald Bailey.
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
It's been moved and supported to pre-qualify GH processing. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, clerk call the roll.
David LaMontagne.
Yes.
Vivian Picard.
Yes.
Donald Bailey.
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
Number 12, Revolution Strains for pre-qualification.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that Revolution Strains LLC, find my page. I move that they've qualified, they have pre-qualification status for a pending application.
Is there support?
Support.
It's been moved and supported to approve Revolution Strains Inc. for a pre-qualification. Any other discussion? Call the roll.
David Lamontagne,
Yes.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
Number 13. I believe it's pronounced Plush Green Acres for pre-qualification. Anything from the board?
I'll make a motion. They have the pre-qualification status for pending application.
Is there support?
Support.
Moved and supported to give Plush Green Acres pre-qualification status. Any discussion? Hearing none. Clerk, call the roll.
David Lamontagne,
Yes.
Vivian Picard,
No.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 3 yeses, 1 no. Motion passes.
Number 14, DSL Holdings. Is there, for a pre-qualification, is there anything board wishes?
I move that DSL Holdings has pre-qualification status for pending application.
Support.
Moved and supported to approve DSL Holdings for pre-qualification. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, go ahead and call the roll.
David Lamontagne,
Yes.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
15, Green Wellness Ventures LLC for pre-qualification.
Mr. Chairman, I move that Green Wellness Ventures LLC has pre-qualification status for a pending application.
I'll support. Is there any discussion? If not, go ahead and call the roll.
David Lamontagne,
Yes.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
Number 16, Compassionate Advisors, Ashton Conning LLC.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we just have a discussion on this application before we make a motion for approval or denial.
Is there support for discussion? No support?
Self-support discussion. Yes.
Moved and supported to have discussion on number 16, Compassionate Advisors Pinconning. Open for discussion.
Mr. Chairman,
Brown is not in favor of that.
Yeah, we need a
Oh, I'm
voice
sorry.
vote.
Did I not? Okay, all in favor of that, say aye.
aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay. Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, regarding two of the supplemental applicants, D, E, and MV, they're in the report. It takes you to a clearly a recreational cannabis cup competition where they had products entered that were high THC, no CBD, and this letter in support of their work also talked about the testing, and those lab reports also showed that the marijuana was only fractionally tested, and that was basically for CBD and THC. There was no pesticide testing. There was no heavy metal testing. There was contaminant tested, but no E. coli, pesticides, or heavy metals were tested for. So I think this is one of those situations where you have to take what we see, what was said, and what is written, and compare it to the actual record that they've created in this market. And both those testing issues go to both applicants, DE and MV. And it's actually the same thing with the income as well. Not the same amounts, but the same profits were made under the 2008 law that weren't allowed under the 2008 law.
Chris, would you want to speak to any of that?
Well, just as to testing as required by the administrative rules is not in effect until an applicant becomes a licensee. So they would not have been subject to the same testing requirements at the time of those tests. That's all I would say on that.
Yeah, and I was only speaking to the veracity of the letter written in their behalf regarding the high CBD tested products, when what we do see was high THC, no CBD, not fully tested products. So it's what's said versus what's done, and I'm inclined to go with what has been done versus what was said.
Okay, is there anything else? No further discussion? Want to move to close? I'll move to close discussion.
Second.
Moved and supported to close discussion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? No.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that Compassionate Advisors has a pre-qualification standing for pending application.
Is there support?
Support.
It's been moved and supported to approve Compassionate Advisors / Pinconning for a pre-qualification. Any other discussion? Call the roll.
David Lamontagne,
Yes.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
No.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 3 yeses, 1 no. Motion passes.
Okay, number 17, Compassionate Advisors LLC.
And I will point out that these are the same supplemental applicants as the last application.
Make a motion they have pre-qualification status for pending application.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to give pre-qualification to Compassionate Advisors LLC. Is there any discussion? Call the roll.
David Lamontagne,
Yes.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
No.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 3 yeses, 1 no. Motion passes.
Number 18, Evergreen Logistics. Am I saying that right? Yep.
Mr. Chairman, I move that Evergreen Logistics has pre-qualification status for pending application.
Is there support?
Support.
It's been moved and supported.
Picard,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
No.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 3 yeses, 1 no. Motion passes.
Number 20, Fresh Coast Farms LLC.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to move to deny the application. And they're qualified to receive a license.
Support.
Okay, the motion is to deny pre-qualification to Fresh Coast Farms. Is there discussion?
And again, we're going to need some statutory provision, or at least one statutory provision, and the factual basis, please.
You ready?
Ready?
All right, 402.3A, personal and business probity. 402.3A, financial ability. 402.3A, responsibility or means to operate and maintain a facility. 402.3C, the applicant failed to provide adequate records. The sources of capital did not establish reliable means, and the applicant failed to provide adequate records to support the financial transactions.
Any other discussion? If not, call the roll.
David Lamontagne,
Yes.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
Okay, number 21, 3200 North LLC for pre-qualification.
And Mr. Chairman, if I could point out through a Scrivener's error, this one and the next one were separated from SJS. They share some ownership in common. I just wanted to point that out to the board.
Okay, thank you. Wishes of the board.
So 21 and 22 are in cahoots with 19, so to speak?
Well, yes, in SJS, the same owner of SJS owns half of, where am I?
19.
Owns half of 3200 North. So there's an additional applicant on 3200 North. And then that applicant is 100% owner of the next applicant. So you have one member in common on this one. And then the half member ownership on this one owns 100% the following Jartnick.
Jarnick. Mhm.
So where are we at here? Lost.
We're open to a motion to,
I'll make the motion. Pre-qualification status. It's for 3200 North, right?
right.
Mhm.
Is there support?
Support.
The motion is to approve pre-qualification status to 3200 North LLC. Is there any more discussion? If not, let's call the roll.
David Lamontagne,
Yes.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
No.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 3 yeses, 1 no. Motion passes.
Okay, number 22. I'm not real sure how to say that, but Jartnick, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Consulting LLC for a pre-qualification.
I move that Jarnick Consultant has pre-qualification status for a pending application.
Support.
Moved and supported to approve Jartnick Consulting for pre-qualification. Any discussion? Call the roll.
David Lamontagne,
Yes.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
No.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes,
Chairman Johnson, you have 3 yeses, 1 no. Motion passes.
thank you. Number 23, Marijuana Transport Company for pre-qualification.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that Marijuana Transport Company has pre-qualification status for pending application.
Is there support?
Support.
Moved and supported to pre-qualify Marijuana Transport Company. Any discussion? Hearing none, call the roll.
David Lamontagne,
Yes.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
Number 24, Alvarez Cultivation LLC for pre-qualification.
Mr. Chairman, I move to grant Alvarez cultivation applications for pre-qualification license.
Is there support?
Support.
Moved and supported to approve Alvarez cultivation for pre-qualification. Further discussion? Hearing none, call the roll.
David LaMontagne,
Yes.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
No.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 3 yeses, 1 no. Motion passes.
Number 25, Med Farms of Michigan for pre-qualification.
Mr. Chairman, I move to grant Med Farms of Michigan application for pre-qualification license.
Is there support?
Support.
Moved and supported to approve Med Farms of Michigan for pre-qualification. Any discussion? Call the roll.
David LaMontagne,
Yes.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
Okay, number 26, it says Flourish LLC. Am I saying that right?
Yes, Flourish.
Flourish. For a pre-qualification. What's wishes?
Mr. Chairman, excuse me, I make a motion that Flourish LLC has pre-qualification status for a pending application.
Is there support?
Support.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
David LaMontagne,
Yes.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Picard,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
Thank you. Number 28, DNVK2 LLC for pre-qualification.
I'll make the motion. Pre-qualification status for pending application.
Support.
Moved and supported to pre-qualify DNVK2. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
David LaMontagne,
Yes.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
Number 29, Harbor Farms North.
Mr. Chairman, I move to grant Harbor Farms North pre-qualification status for a pending application.
There's support.
Support.
Is there discussion?
Mr. Chairman, this is a, excuse me, this is an application that was denied in August, and it has come back to us. 2 of the applicants that supplemental applicants that were on the denial have been dropped from this application. But I do know in this new application, without those 2 supplemental applicants, the supplemental applicant now states that he's going to keep those folks involved in his business. And I think that's problematic for me, given the reasons that they were dropped. I'm sorry, that the application was denied. They're going to have, he's going to rely on them. These are out-of-state applicants. and they're going to need to rely on somebody in state. And as stated, he's going to rely on the folks that caused the application to get denied. And for that reason, I wouldn't be in support of this application.
Any other discussion? Go ahead and call the roll then.
David LaMontagne,
Yes.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
No.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 3 yeses, 1 no. Motion passes.
Okay, number,
And before we move on to the next section, we had one item earlier in the agenda. It was the first one in this section, CTK Agriculture LLC, 7A1. And I believe on that one we had the statutory bases, but not the factual bases, unless I missed that in my notes.
I'm sorry, repeat that again, please.
Back on 7A1, CTK Agriculture LLC, it was the first pre-qualification application. Unless I missed that, we had statutory bases, but not the factual bases on that one. And if we could just have you go back and clarify your motion. I'm
pulling notes up right now.
Thank you.
I have.
I think you just cited the statutory provision.
Mr. Chairman, regarding the Attorney General's request on the factual basis on this, on CTK.
So what we could do is just have you amend your motion, and then if the second agreed, it was your motion, Mr. Bailey, Mr. LaMontagne was the second, and then we'll revote just to make sure that we've got it all in the record. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we amend the motion to deny CTK LLC the application.
okay, you need a motion to that?
So it would be a motion to, you could just
Motion
do it
to
all
amend.
in one. Motion to amend your previous denial to add, and then you add the factual basis, and if the second agrees, then we could have a vote.
Just to clean it up and get everything on the record.
So, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to amend and restate and vote on the denial of CTK Agriculture LLC on their application for their pre-qualification application.
And you could just go ahead and state your amendment and including the factual bases, and then if the second agrees, then we can revote.
Is there a second?
Second support.
It's been moved and supported to, I'm not real sure what.
So to amend the motion to deny CTK Agriculture LLC a license, a pre-qualification status under section 4023A, personal business probity to operate and maintain a marijuana facility, section 4023A, financial ability and experience to operate or maintain a marijuana facility, 4023A, responsibility or means to operate or maintain a marijuana facility, 4023C, the source and total amount of the applicant's capitalization to operate and maintain the proposed marijuana facility. The applicant failed to provide adequate records to the department to demonstrate an ability to operate a marijuana business in a compliant manner. The source of the capital provided did not establish a reliable means the operation of a facility under the MMFLA.
Thank you. And then,
Um,
Mr. LaMontagne, you were the second on that motion. If you agree with that amendment, then we would vote on it.
I don't.
Actually, did you support it?
Mhm.
He
was already-
made the motion.
yeah.
I have
he has to
to
go back.
agree, and I don't.
You know?
Well, this is, in my opinion, and far be it for me to argue with our learned colleagues from law school down there. This is out of order.
Yeah,
I mean,
couldn't agree more.
this is, what are we at? This is 26 items down the road. There was a motion, it passed. There was a factual basis, I think you said, or a statutory basis. And you're just asking to fill in the blanks, right? Because you got the 402(3)(a) and C, right? You're just
Correct.
asking for,
We're asking for this motion to
All
be
right.
consistent with the subsequent motions that were made to deny. So
We're going to spend more time talking
Yeah,
about
I
whether
think
this is
we're
right or
about done
wrong
with
if we
this.
just do it.
You know,
And we're just looking for
We
the,
have a motion before us, therefore, the chair rules, this better not happen again. And we're going to move.
second, that.
You know, yeah, but we're not going to make that motion. We're going to move to agenda item 7B. Number 1, applicant is Compassionate Care by Design.
So, Mr. Chairman, they've got the pre-qualification status. I'll be moving to grant the application for license.
Okay, the motion is to approve. Was there support?
Support.
And moved and supported to grant a license to Compassionate Care by Design. Further discussion? Please call the roll.
David Lamontagne,
Yes.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses, no nos, motion passes.
Okay, number 2, applicant is Choice Lab Inc. for a state operating license.
Mr. Chairman, I move to grant Choice Labs, Inc. State operating license.
Support.
Moved and supported to approve a state operating license for Choice Labs Inc. Any other discussion? Call
No.
roll.
note that Choice Labs, Inc. was pre-qualified on July 12th.
Call roll.
David Lamontagne,
Yes.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses, motion passes.
Number 3, Amazing Buds for state operating license. Is there a wish to do here?
I move to grant Amazing Buds state operating license.
Is there support?
Support.
Moved and supported. Is there any discussion? Grant a license to Amazing Buds. Call the roll.
David Lamontagne,
Yes.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses, motion passes.
Number 4, 3843 Euclid LLC, pre-qualification and a state operating license. All in one. What's the feelings?
I'll move to grant the application, Mr. Chairman.
Is there support?
Support.
Moved and supported to grant 3843 Euclid a license. Any discussion?
And again, remember that a motion to grant includes pre-qualification for this applicant since it was not previously pre-qualified.
Got it.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, in regarding this application, there was a large police investigation last spring on a marijuana grow, and from what I can gather, they were supplying this provisioning center with product, and it was an illegal grow. It wasn't in the licensed pipeline, and I think it's situations like this that have gone to a great length in supporting and really expanding our black market that we have right now. And that's a problem we're trying to get away with, which we will get away with. We'll overcome with this licensing. But in the quest to make money, they were fully supportive of this, and for that reason, I wouldn't support this application.
Any other discussion? Is this the one where the kids got sick? A health issue or something? I don't recall if it was sick.
There was a supposed issue, but it was completely unfounded.
I don't believe it was completely unfounded. It was not substantially, you couldn't prove it, but you couldn't disprove it either, is from what I understand.
The information that we have in the department is comfortable saying it's unfounded.
It was what?
Unfounded. Yes.
And that was a situation last April, I believe it was April 20th, where the complaint was that there was some product that made some kids sick and went to the hospital.
That was the supposed allegation, but it was unfounded. There was no information that supports that, and the health department that was investigating that dropped that investigation, and there was no evidence of any of that supposed product in the provisioning center. The even slang term for the product that was supposedly there was not there. It's unfounded.
How did they initially become involved in it as being reported that they were involved in it?
Yeah, I believe it was reported to a health department through a medical professional, and that may or may not should have happened. That's what was passed to us. But
So was it a medical patient that reported it to a medical professional that reported it to the health department? Trying to figure out how they would even get involved in it if there's nothing to it.
Yeah, I agree. I believe it was, what we were told was, a doctor took it upon themselves to report that information, but then it was dropped by both the county officials, and they were told to stop by a state department that was also supporting them. And then through our investigation, where we were looking, it was unfounded.
Unfounded, or you just weren't able to show it one way or another?
It's unfounded. I mean, that's literally all I can say is we have no evidence of any wrongdoing by the provisioning center in connection with the supposed, whether they were or may not sick, by a product that we have no evidence of being at the provisioning center.
Do we know the status of this illegal grow that was?
No, in fact, this is the first I've heard of it. Was there any information provided by us to the board regarding that police investigation?
I'm just looking at my notes, so I'm not sure if it's something that I.
News to me.
Mr. Chairman, can we move to, I make a motion that we move to the vote, please?
Sure. Sounds good. Go ahead, call the roll.
I'll make the motion to grant their application for a license.
Motion is to approve for their license. Their support?
Support.
Supported. Is there discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I note in the BMMR report on this application.
We've skipped a page.
We did?
Yes.
Yeah, which one are we?
The next applicant on the agenda is Green Peak Industries.
5.
Oh, really?
Oh, okay, we did. Number 5.
Didn't I say it? Did I say it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we just voted on that.
Well, let's take care of this one while we've got it, and we'll go back
No.
to Green Peak. We've got this one up on a motion on
Oh,
the floor.
it's double-sided.
Then we'll go back to
What they're doing.
make sure I got that page.
It's all, and it's all
Right
on here. It was,
Yeah, I don't have that page. Okay, the motion is to grant Evergreen Wellness Group a pre-qualification and a state operating license. It's been approved,
I
right?
think we need to make sure we're all on the same item here. I believe
We're on.
we're on,
We on,
I think we
No.
had,
we're going, if
Um,
we're going back, we're going to 5, but now we're at Utopia.
so we haven't yet handled number 5, Green Peak Industries. We got through 4
And
and we would be on 5.
For the same operation?
Ag, good.
Correct, 2 separate licenses.
We doing both as one?
Yes, you may, as long as it's the exact same motion for both.
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
7 and 8.
Are you okay with that?
yes,
Okay, so you're voting on approval for 7 and 8. Is there any discussion on that?
Do we have support?
Vivian.
Isn't there some non-disclosures in this?
mm-hmm. There were about
There-
five
I had 5 non-disclosures.
non-disclosures on it, yes.
And Mr. Chairman, related to applicant JD, it looks like the disclosures took 4 submissions to get the 7A, the 7SA submitted accurately reflecting all of those. As well, and I believe it was the BMMR, and I'm sorry, it was in follow-up with the application section. They weren't able to provide sales records, complete sales records as the department had requested. And when the response when asked when those records would be when they would be able to locate them and forward them on, the response was no clue. It doesn't look like they're making much of an effort to work with the department, and that I see as being a problem going forward.
Any other discussion? If not, call the roll.
Do we have a motion on the table?
We do.
Okay,
Twice.
thank you.
David LaMontagne,
Yes.
Vivian Picard,
No.
Donald Bailey,
No.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
No.
Chairman Johnson, you have 1 yes, 3 no's. Motion fails.
Okay, we need a motion for denial for number 7 and number 8. If that's the wishes, I'm gonna make that motion.
Motion to deny Pioneer Cultivators number 7 and 8. Pre-qualifications and license to operate.
Is there support?
Mr. Chairman, that would be under section 402.
Wait, did you support that?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes,
Okay, go
support.
ahead.
That would be under section 402 2C, 402, where did it go?
Mainly the non-disclosures. All 5 of them.
Yeah, it's the non-disclosures, but I would go 402.3A as well. Integrity, moral character, reputation, personal and business probity.
And the factual bases that you're relying on?
The 5 non-disclosures.
Thank you.
Any more discussion? Not, call the roll for denial of Pioneer Medicinal Cultivators. That's what I say.
David LaMontagne,
No.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 3 yeses, 1 no. Motion passes.
Okay, now we're at number 9 again. In my world.
Before we move forward, I apologize, but it was pointed out that Green Peak Industries had 2 separate licenses. I'm not sure they were in the same item together. And I think it would be useful to clarify. We can either amend to make sure that it's clear that both of those licenses are being granted, or if the board wishes otherwise, we could handle it a different way. But there are 2 separate licenses. They're listed together. They're both Class C grower, as
Mr. Chairman,
believe.
I can make that motion.
And we had a motion on that one already by LaMontagne with a second by Picard. So again, if you wish to clarify that by amending to make sure it's clear that both licenses are granted for the record.
Allow amendment.
I believe we've already done that, so. We approved number 5. Green Peak Industries. Find my notes. I mean, just going back, just don't get it.
I see her point,
I
okay?
do.
But whoever's authoring somebody manufactured this agenda, right? It wasn't me. That's probably not supposed to say that.
I think she's sitting next to you.
It's correct.
Hope you're not backing.
Yeah. So, I mean, item 5's got 2 numbers on there. That's it. We voted on it. We're good to go.
As far as I'm concerned,
Rock on.
we've approved them both.
I
Number
understand
9.
your point, Counselor. Just maybe you guys figure that out before we got to show up here.
Number 9, approval for Evergreen Wellness Group. Or denial, whatever.
Move to approve.
Move to approve. Okay. Is there support? It's been moved and supported for Evergreen Wellness Group LLC for a pre-qualification of the state operating license. Any discussion? Roll.
David LaMontagne,
Yes.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
No.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 3 yeses, 1 no. Motion passes.
Okay, we're back to number 10, Utopia Gardens for a pre-qualification of the state operating license. Feel like I'm in Utopia right now.
You feel better than I do.
What's the wish of the
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman, to that the Utopia Gardens has pre-qualification status for pending application. Oh, sorry. Yeah, all right, hold on. Take it easy. Move to grant the application for a license. Yes?
Yes.
And this includes pre-qualification since Utopia Gardens is not already pre-qualified.
Thank you.
Need support?
Support.
Moved and supported to grant Utopia Gardens a pre-qualification and a state operating license. Discussion on number 10.
Mr. Chairman, in looking at some of the financials on this one, there's a lot of caregiver profit that's being taken in, but it's not being carried on taxes from what I can see. And there was also an issue with sales tax paid versus what was claimed as income from the sales from the from the provisioning center. It accounted for about $175,000 in unaccounted for money. I don't think that I could support this application based on what I've seen.
I have a question, Chris. Did they paid sales tax, right?
Yes, sir.
Anyone else have questions? Call the roll.
David LaMontagne,
Yes.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
No.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 3 yeses, 1 no. Motion passes.
Number 11, Plan B Wellness Center for a state operating license.
Mr. Chair, I move to deny the application for Plan B Wellness and cite in section 4023A, 4023A, personal and business propriety, financial ability and experience, responsibility, or means to operate or maintain a marijuana facility.
Is there support?
Support.
And again, we would ask that you add the factual bases for those provisions.
Just did.
I thought she laid it out pretty good.
Mhm.
Okay, more discussion? The motion is to deny Plan B Wellness Center their operating license. Call the roll.
LaMontagne. David LaMontagne,
Yes.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes. For a happy hour every day from 3 to 5. That is not in any stretch related to the medical marijuana, which is where we're here, what we're here for today. He claimed that he only opened for business in 2018, July actually of 2018. That same Weed Maps site for this provisioning center has been active since 2013. So I think there's some issues with, again, what's being told to us and given to us in the application and what's actually been happening. I don't think I can support this application.
Any other discussion? The motion is to approve. Pre-qualification state operating license. No more discussion. Please call the roll.
David LaMontagne,
Yes.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
No.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 3 yeses, 1 no. Motion passes.
Number 13, Third Coast of Ypsilanti for a pre-qualification and a state operating license.
Mr. Chairman, I move to deny.
Is there support to deny?
Support.
Moved and supported to deny Third Coast of Ypsilanti a pre-qualification and state operating license. Do you want to?
Yeah, she's
got
chomping
the
at the
floor.
bit down there. 4023A, personal and business probity. 4023A, financial ability. 4023E, the applicant has filed against it a proceeding for bankruptcy within the past 7 years. The applicant failed to provide adequate records to demonstrate an ability to operate a marijuana business in a compliant manner and failed to provide adequate records to support the financial account transactions.
Any discussion? Call the roll.
David LaMontagne,
Yes.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
Number 14, Kinsey Consulting, Inc. for a state operating license. Wishes?
Move to grant the application, the application for a license. Kenzie Consulting.
Is there support?
Support.
Moved and supported to grant Kinsey Consulting a state operating license. Any discussion? Call the roll.
David LaMontagne,
Yes.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
No.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 3 yeses, 1 no. Motion passes.
Okay, number 15 is Five Star Relief LLC for pre-qualification and a state operating license. What's the wishes?
Mr. Chairman, I move to provide both to 5 Star Relief.
Is there support?
Support.
Moved and supported to grant Five Star Relief a pre-qualification and a state operating license. Is there discussion? None. Call the roll.
David LaMontagne,
Yes.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
Number 16, Herbal Healing of River Rouge for a pre-qualification and a state operating license. Discussion. Motions.
Move to grant the healing herbal of River Rouge's application for license.
Moved and supported to grant Herbal Healing of River Rouge a pre-qualification and state operating license. Is there discussion?
Mr. Chairman, if I could ask Ms. Jordan, was there an undisclosed assault in this? That's what I have in my notes. An arrest from.
Yeah, yes, it was found that in 2001, there was,
There was 2
And-
non-disclosures.
You got 2 in your
Yes.
notes?
I only see 1, but it was an ordinance violation, assault and battery. There was some explanation in the record provided by the lieutenant of the police department as to what he believes the factual basis may have been. He doesn't remember this one specifically. And there was information from the prosecuting attorney in the materials that was provided to the board. This charge was ultimately dismissed. So
After a no contest or it was a deferred sentence, I believe.
I don't recall that in my review, but I'm not going to dispute it. But I think the facts that were relayed was that he was taken to the police department, no handcuffs. A charge was made, so he was ultimately charged. Now I don't know what I'm not going to quote his reasoning as to why he didn't believe that it should be that it shouldn't be disclosed. I mean, that's all in the documentation that was provided to the board.
So it was basically not disclosed.
Yeah.
Correct. It was not disclosed.
Mr. Chairman, in regard, in addition to that, the BMMR enforcement facility inspection report showed that as late as August 29th, this facility was selling products in violation of the MFLA regulations. And again, those regulations have been out between the law and the rules have been out at least since December, the first week of December of 2017. So the items that were sold in violation had to do with candy packaging, advertising, cartoons, that section. So I think knowing what the rules are, knowing that they have to comply, and as late as just 5 weeks ago, they were still not in compliance with what's going to be expected of them, and they knew that all along. I wouldn't support this application.
Discussion. The motion is to approve pre-qualification and state operating license for herbal healing of River Rouge. Call roll.
David LaMontagne,
Yes.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
No.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
No.
Chairman Johnson, you have 2 yeses, 2 noes. Motion fails.
Okay, we need to decide what we want to do here.
I may move that we table the license. So we've got a full complement.
Is there support for tabling?
Support.
Support.
Okay, motion is to table this to the 29th meeting.
Okay.
That's good.
Sure.
Okay, to table this to the 29th of October's meeting. Call roll.
David LaMontagne,
Yes.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
I believe this is the last one. Number 17, custom built properties for pre-qualification and a state operating license.
To provide support for both, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
It's moved and seconded to grant Custom Built Properties LLC a pre-qualification and state operating license. Is there discussion? Hearing none, call roll.
David LaMontagne,
Yes.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes,
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
thank you. All right, we're down to
Director's report.
I don't have that on my agenda.
I guess we skip
Department
it.
report right here.
Where'd he go? Is that on purpose, Andrew, that it's not on here?
Hey, Rick, can
Department
I see
report.
Are you looking at your memo?
Right
It's
here.
on there.
Director's report?
Right here.
Oh, you're calling it department now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't know. You could be. You have the floor anyway.
Mhm.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Pretty brief report for the board today, but appreciate the time nonetheless and your diligence in, again, in reviewing all these applications. In terms of the statistical update, I believe I have the right numbers even based on the actions taken today. And this is the submitted applications are as of last Friday. We've had 772 paid pre-qualification applications submitted. MMR. We have 104 of those that have been approved by the board and 61 that have been denied. Class A growers, we've had 23 applications, 1 approval, no denials. Class B growers, 4 submitted, none have yet been reviewed by the board. Class C grows, 161 submitted, 8 approved, 1 denied. 52 processors, 5 approved, 0 denied. Provisioning centers, 177 submitted, 30 have been approved and 11 denied. Secure transporters, 11 submitted, 3 approved, 0 denied. Safety compliance facilities, 4 approved, none denied. And as of our last count, we had 108 municipalities in the state that have adopted ordinances to opt in. One note on those numbers, I expect by the next meeting we'll have some more detail for the board to start reconciling some of those growing numbers of applications, as a number of those license applications that have been received are affiliated with applicants whose pre-qualification application may have been denied already. We also have a number of those we've started to review and have either been withdrawn or we are going to place them in an inactive status based on a lack of activity on the file. So that will start to give you a better sense of where we stand in terms of the backlog and the review of the applications. Happy to take any questions about those.
When you're reviewing these and there's no activity, are you at least getting the courtesy of a response back saying we're not going to proceed, or we're working on what you want, we just don't have it yet, or is it just no response?
So in some cases, we've had applicants who have sort of voluntarily withdrawn because they recognize that they're not going to pursue it any farther. But I know we have, in speaking with my management group, at least 32 applications can be used by provisioning centers within that 30 days that ends on November 30th, where they can sell product that hasn't been tested in full compliance with the consent of. Wanted to just bring the board's attention that there is some legislative activity that may be of interest to the group. Public Act 346 of 2018 amended the Michigan Liquor Control Code of 1998 to prohibit marijuana-infused alcoholic drinks. I just thought that may be of interest. There has been a bill introduced to amend the Marijuana Tracking Act that would allow the Bureau to share licensee data from the statewide monitoring system with a financial institution designated by the licensee. We're hopeful that will assist with the issues with banking relationships for industry participants. And there was also a bill package introduced to amend the Industrial Hemp Research Act to create a licensing and regulatory program within the Michigan Department of Agriculture and Rural Development for industrial hemp, and it does amend the definition of marijuana in the Public Health Code, which is referenced in the Marijuana Facilities Licensing Act and the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act. So we are aware of that legislation and offering our feedback to assist should the legislature and the governor choose to implement those bills, how that could be effectuated to fulfill the intent of the legislation. One other note, the board does meet again on October 29th, just a couple days before that October 31st deadline. We do have a process in place by which anyone who is approved by the board for licensure at that 10/29 meeting will be able to get their license, their physical license, by 10/31. The applicant who is approved by the board would simply need to pay the regulatory assessment at least by the morning of 10/31 at our office in person, and then we can coordinate printing a license and providing it to them in the afternoon of 10/31. So we want to streamline that process, obviously, with that deadline so that they can actually receive their license and begin operation. And those are all the comments I had for the board. Happy to take questions.
Got one.
Yes, sir.
So run down the secure transporter number again. Was it 3?
3 have been approved for licensure. That's correct.
Including the one today? Or is that?
I don't think you had one today.
There we go.
Oh, we did.
A pre-qualification.
Oh,
not a
That's
Yeah.
true.
All right. So
You got it.
We had 2
license.
today.
Win again.
So we got 3 so far statewide.
Correct.
I'm just, again, as I travel around this great state of ours doing union work, and it's open enrollment time for everybody. If you guys in the state, if your calendar year is January to 1 or January to December for your plan, you got to go over and pick your health care plan, and most of them include mandated home delivery. And I've mentioned it before. Got no dog in this fight, but this is medicine. It's going to be about patient access.
We did, in the draft rules, provide some allowance for home delivery by provisioning centers. That was an area we got pretty robust feedback during the comment period. So that those concepts will move forward, and that we expect that that draft administrative rules package will be presented to JCAR relatively soon.
Regarding the home delivery, other states that have come before us on this, isn't there like 2 or 3 that do allow this home delivery?
Yes.
And that's not a big number. So we're going to be on the cutting edge of developing whatever this home delivery is, being there's not a lot of it that's happening.
I don't think there's been a tremendous amount of history. I do think that, we tried to take an approach that was reasonable, that would provide the access, but do so in such a way that it was controlled and we could ensure that it was done in a safe manner. And we consulted with our law enforcement partners in determining the best approach to do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, sir.
So they get their license issued on the 30th or 31st. So then they only have then 30 days to basically clear their shelves from the caregiver supply if it's a provisioning center.
Correct. So a provisioning center, any product they have on hand when they achieve licensure has to be entered into the statewide monitoring system within 30 days, can only be sold within that 30 days. Anything beyond that period, which that there's a hard end to that period overall at the end of November, has to be obtained through the regulated supply chain and fully tested in compliance with the rules.
Okay, that's what I wanted. I mean, I knew that, but I want to make sure.
Yes.
And then you mentioned the permanent rules are going to go to JCAR pretty soon.
Yep.
Where are we at in the temporary ones? We're still under the last issuance, which makes the 31st the deadline, or the 30th, whatever.
Correct. There are 2 sets of emergency rules that are currently in effect.
Right.
The set that was promulgated, I believe it was May 30th, which is the larger set of rules, and the set that was promulgated on October 1st, specific to temporary operation. Both those rule sets are in effect. So yes, in terms of the deadline for temporary operation, the current status is that ends on 10/31.
Okay. Now, JCAR, what if the permanent rules go there and they decide they don't want to meet till the first of the year? Are we prepared for that?
We're preparing for all paths to achieve the adoption of the rule set. Obviously, we want to have that done prior to the expiration of the temporary or the emergency rules that were filed on 5/30, because those expire on November 30th. So we need to have that full rule set in effect by that date. That's the intention.
That'll be a good one. It's depending on who wins and who loses, is my guess. But that concerns me, is what I'm getting to here.
we've,
Okay.
we've been cognizant of the timeframes and trying to work to make sure that we have,
I know you have, Director. I just want to make sure everyone out there has. Okay. Anything else? Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Public comment. Rachel Uganski, is that correct? Where are you at? Uganski? Okay. I should know how to say that because even though my name is Johnson, I'm actually mostly Polish, so I should know how to say that. Sorry. Thank you. Geez, chased everybody out. The hustle and bustle is not affecting your 2 minutes, so
Okay,
you're okay.
just a quick question. I'm here with a group of people and we actually have a distinct order if that's okay with you. So I'm gonna refer to Heidi first.
You only have 2 minutes under how you did this.
Sorry, we weren't sure how to fill them out, so we had somebody fill out a card with
Are
all
you
of our
Rachel,
names.
did you say?
So I'm Heidi. That was
You're Heidi?
Rachel that just
That was
talked.
Rachel?
Yeah, we should be on a card with Kate.
Oh, boy.
We only have 2 minutes each, I promise.
Why don't we,
We'll give you some more, but
Just state your name and.
Okay.
yeah.
yes.
My name is Heidi Denton. I work in Allegan County at Community Mental Health and Substance Abuse Prevention. So what we have today for you actually is a summary of what each of us are going to talk about. Stephanie's going to pass that out for you guys, but we just came today to thank you for your diligence and really paying attention to licenses and being thorough in the process. And want to say that our vested interest really is the greater good of the community. We're not here to ask you to do anything different except to be really stringent when you are implementing the law itself. What we have listed for you guys is kind of a summary of things that we are asking that you due diligence and really following through to make sure that this is similar to the way that alcohol was implemented. All of us work in a substance abuse prevention agency in West Michigan. So what we have summarized for you guys is really just a list of things that we ask that you consider, and then we have included our contact information if you would like any help from us in kind of following through on what we have suggested. I represent the group that really would like to ask that you follow through on making sure that buyers and sellers are 21 and that they are state residents that we are selling to. So following through with the same process when it comes to alcohol and carding people and making sure that they do have a Michigan state ID. The several agencies in Michigan, including the Office of Highway Safety Planning, have put together a guide that shows you what proper identification should look like. We're here to assist you guys if you want us to help follow through on displaying those signs and how we can make that so it's really easy and quick so that all licensees can have that proper signage displayed. And then asking that you consider a quick training for everybody that will be actually selling the product themselves to make sure that they are selling it to Michigan residents and kind of following through on all the guidelines that are listed. So like I said, our contact information is in that packet. So if you would like to explore anything further, we are all available to help with that process. So I'm
Okay.
going to turn it over to my colleagues now, if that's okay.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rachel Uganski, and I work for the Newaygo County RESA. I'm the project coordinator for drug-free communities. So I help a coalition called the Headway Coalition in Newaygo County manage federal funds, including the Drug-Free Community Support Program and the CARA Local Drug Crisis Grant. The coalition is really dedicated to reducing substance abuse among our youth. And one of the main topics that I am going to focus on today is the importance of labeling. So if we'd ask you guys to consider that if we're using marijuana as medicine, to really be thoughtful about the labeling. So labeling is a key piece of any prescription drug. It instructs the patient on proper usage, dosage, to use the medication safely. And I urge you guys to impose the following labeling requirements, including patient name, the name of the strain, the batch, the harvest date, the date dispensed, the recommending physician, just like any other prescription, the producer's name, business name, name of cultivating center, dispensary number, warning stating that it is illegal to transfer and cannot be associated with products marketed to children, including that strain name and that organization name. We also would urge you to include packaged in compliance with the U.S. Poison Prevention Act, which really states that products require child-resistant packaging for those products that present a risk of serious injury or illness to children under 5. And this medibles and things like that are especially attractive to children, and this is a concern. Also, so the National Poison Data System between 2005 and 2011, associated with the decriminalization of marijuana, has been associated with increased reports of unintentional exposure in young children and a 30% increase of marijuana-related calls to poison control. Lastly, to consider a product insert including clinical pharmacology, dosage, use, administration, dosage forms and strengths, contradictions, warnings, precautions, and adverse reactions. Activation time expressed in words through a pictogram, and percentage of the THC and CBD. Thank you, guys.
Hello there, my name is Rachel McCoy, and I'm the Community Health Improvement Coordinator for the Health Project, Mercy Health Muskegon, and I'm also the coordinator for the Coalition for a Drug-Free Muskegon County. I'm just going to talk a little bit about marketing and advertisement. When walking into a physician's office or a medical marijuana dispensary, no marijuana leaves, 420 culture, marijuana products should be shown. If this is a medical office, it should depict a medical office where patients receive their medicine. The only marketed symbol should be a universal approved logo from the Department of Health. All internet marketing ads must be approved by the MDHHS designee and may not target those under 18 and cannot be unsolicited pop-up ads. A physician should not be able to market and advertise on any social media platform such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc. When an ad is created on Facebook, the ad can be targeted to a specific target audience based on age, demographics, interests, etc. These ads should not be regulated or should be regulated to allow patients to receive the proper care from their own physician, family doctor, or a specialist. Products should not be marketed with a 420 culture, marijuana leaf, or any other symbol, jargon reflecting the marijuana culture. If it is medicine, the medicine should be marketed just as that. No promotion of the 420 date, which in the marijuana culture is a day promoted to get high. Medical marijuana should be used for medical purposes only. For example, in Detroit, I just saw an advertisement for give me $50 and I'll give you a medical marijuana card. Oh, and by the way, while you're here, come and get a pop and pizza. Physicians cannot market services and products that are visible to the public from any street, sidewalk, park, or other public space except for a sign on the outside of the building with the aforementioned suggestion of a universal logo symbol administered by the MDHHS. And also just to a reminder, advertisements for medical marijuana on billboards are considered federal violations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kate Castelluth Scarborough. I'm the Executive Director of Mediation and Restorative Services in Muskegon. I'm also the Chair of Coalition for a Drug-Free Muskegon County, and I am the Co-Chair of the Lakeshore Regional Entity Substance Abuse Policy Oversight Board. And I'm wanting to talk about processing centers and edibles. So when we think about processing centers, we would hope that employees, including those involved with industrial hemp, pass a background check. And before licensing approval for processing centers, we'd want to ensure that there's adequate electricity and water for those facilities as we think about density. Marijuana plants, shrubs really, take about 5 gallons of water per day per plant. And so that's a significant issue to think about for communities. Processing centers should really only be allowed in industrial centers. It's not appropriate for residential communities. And if we're regulating this like liquor, we would like you to also consider a density plan similar to what the Michigan Liquor Control Commission uses for facilities as well. Regarding cannabis waste, we would ask you to consider that cannabis waste and growers must be licensed through a waste management company to remove the waste. Further, cannabis waste should be contained in a secured receptacle, meeting waste management laws, and this will ensure that it's only used for the intended purpose. And industrial odor filtration and management systems should be required to prohibit the emission of odors and pollutants that have the potential to be a nuisance. This should apply to both grow sites and to processing sites. And dispensaries making and handling edibles should be required to have food certification licenses. They're making a food product and should be clean, hygienic, have running water, toilets, etc. Facilities producing edibles should meet the requirements and be licensed by the Michigan Department of Agriculture and Rural Development to safeguard the community members who consume these food items. Edibles should be treated like any other food product and should include nutritional facts and ingredients so people know what it is that they're eating. And staff handling edibles should be certified ServSafe, as any other food preparation staff is required to be. Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak, and thank you for your efforts to understand the myriad of issues that licensing these types of facilities raise and making decisions that protect all community members. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is that everyone? Thank you. Rachel McCoy? That was you? Okay. Michael Pavlak, is it?
Hello, my name is Michael Pavlak. I'm the owner of Stash Stock LLC. We're a Michigan verified third-party vendor with the metric system. We're working with Lantos Transport right now to build some software that will keep them in compliance. But we recently got our new business training, which we weren't allowed to take as a vendor, but we could as an employee under them. The training is about an hour and a half and has about 4 minutes relevant to the transport service and provides no demonstration of actually performing that task. I feel like the businesses should receive training relevant to their actual industry and should not be required to go through stuff that's irrelevant. Even the test is mostly irrelevant to their business. Our system is providing real-time and historical ability to track a vehicle in its routes. Every 15 seconds, we're collecting GPS data. We are also able to provide real-time inventory and historical inventory using active RFID scanning. Matching the two, we can provide when any pickup or delivery was performed and at what location and at what time. The current process in metric is kind of silly. The shipper more or less dictates to the transporter how to do the transport, and Freeform enters the trip information into a text box. This provides no insight or queryability into where vehicles should be other than someone manually looking at these documents. We also have no insight into the expectation of the packages other than the printout on paper of what is expected to be in the vehicle. So it makes it very difficult for us to, through automation, figure out what is expected to be delivered and received. I think there is a giant hole in this process, and just wanted to see if anyone is aware of these things or if we can do anything to shore those things up.
You. Kate, is it Kesselut Scarborough? She might have, I think she was the one of the group. A Joseph Smith.
Good afternoon. I just wanted to ask, it would be helpful, I know for me, the young lady from the Attorney General's office, she asked for facts associated with the cases, and you guys were giving the statutes, which does give a general outline, but it doesn't give like specific information. I know you can't disclose personal information, but for example, financial suitability or probity. If you would elaborate, facts would be actually they didn't have enough money, or the money wasn't seasoned, or you couldn't trace the money. Those things would be helpful, as I haven't put my application in, and I'd like to know the kinds of things that should be guarded against. And as I said, facts aren't statutes. Statutes don't really give us the information. So that would be helpful if you could. Thank you.
Thank you. Craig Aronoff.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity. And I also wanted to say thank you for the work you guys have done. That, as well as Laura and the team from Laura, have done a great job helping this come along. I know people have their concerns with timing, but we're doing our best and we're appreciating the work you're doing from all levels. One concern we have as this October date hits is the supply missing. We have 30 stores approved right now. We have 8 Class C growers. There's an insufficient supply that's happening right now. And so hopefully Laura is going to be considering some other options to ensure that stores and processors who would be looking to use a lot of material for their medicine have the available opportunities from the marketplace, be it relying on caregivers in some other fashion than we're doing presently. But a big concern is, especially for some licensees I'm working with, is come November 1, there's not going to be any more suppliers to purchase from than the handful that we have. And there's just not enough supply to meet the store's demands, to meet patient access and concern for the patient's opportunity for that medicine. That being said, hopefully we'll see some considerations. I look forward to seeing the next board meeting in a couple weeks and having more licensees pass through. Thank you again.
Thank you. Denise I'll let you pronounce it. I know you've been here before, so.
Thank you. Denise Policella, Cannabis Attorneys of Michigan. One brief comment about the secure transport function that I think bears some attention, warrants a little attention. It's true that 2 secured transporters can service the whole state, but there's nothing in the statute or the regulations requiring them to. And as we get closer to the October 31st date, I think that we need to be aware of the fact that this is going to cause an enormous bottleneck in the ability of growers getting product to processors and to provisioning centers. And the board may want to consider a temporary alleviation of the ability potentially for people in the industry who are already licensed to temporarily transport their own materials until we can get enough secured transporters licensed and available. What I actually wanted to speak about again is the appeal process. I understand and actually very much appreciate how fast you're going, how much volume you're handling, the deadlines. I very much do. However, that process is causing a lot of denials that could potentially be overturned. The appeal process is very, very long. And when you put it into the Michigan Administrative Hearing System, it gets longer. I would like the board and Laura and BMMR to consider some sort of expedited or internal review process so that the applicants can get before the board faster. The only hearing I'm aware of that we've even had an opinion on under MAHS is not even back before the board yet. So, and we do have to consider that if some of these people are able to show that they're qualified for a license, we have now made them wait 4, 5, 6 months without being licensed. And that is a very difficult and sometimes impossible financial burden for them to meet, to stay sort of in limbo that long waiting for an appeal. So I would like the board and Laura and BMMR to consider some sort of internal review process that's faster than the MAH hearing. Thank you.
Thank you. Rick Thompson.
Thank you very much. Rick Thompson from Michigan Normal. I want to talk about integrity today, and let's talk about the integrity of the board itself. We saw some dysfunction today. When the courts make a determination of no guilt, but we have a board member, Mr. Bailey, who maintains he has some superseding opinion, the process of licensing approvals is cast into doubt and your integrity is cast into doubt. All the good works of the board are diminished by that nonsensical attitude. The interpretation of the MMMA being expressed by Mr. Bailey is not in alignment with any commonly understood definitions.
Rick, you're going to have to stay away from criticizing board members, or you're going to be asked to leave.
He's got 2 minutes to speak. You can let him speak.
Okay. Wow. Not even Even continuity there. All right. So what I will say is that when we have claims based on observations on social media, regardless of which one of the board members does that, that's nonsensical. When we have the licensing board or the licensing member saying that we have a claim that was unfounded, unsupported, with no evidence, the department determined no issue, and an investigation was dropped by the county, but any one of the board members continues to pursue that, that drops the integrity of the entire process in the minds of the observers and the people that are in the licensing process. Let's talk about the integrity of licensing and regulatory affairs. I'm extremely concerned about October 31st. Today we heard from Director Brisboe that there are only 9 approved cultivation centers, not operating cultivation centers, just approved. We have 3 secure transporters, 4 safety compliance centers. Those are not guaranteed that those are in operation. Those are just the ones approved. With 83 counties throughout the state, October 31st looms as a gigantic failure of the process to ensure a consistent supply of medicine to the 300,000 patients in the state that require it. It's not acceptable for administrative purposes to dictate the closure of all of these centers. We had an opportunity. Judge Borrello extended the emergency rules to December 15th, which would have been acceptable. And then we had an additional set of rules dropped after the judge's decision. That creates a problem for patients in Michigan.
Ben Wrigley?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, 2 items for you today as we move this process through, and thank you all for your time and effort here. First one is that with respect to licensed entities right now and what we see as future licensed entities, they are all looking at the opportunity of bringing in new people as owners. Ms. Johnson, you talked about what happens when one dies. What we're trying to look at is right now bringing in additional owners. They will need to come before the board to be looked at. We're hoping that we can work with you to develop a process for forms for these new investors, whether they're 1%, 10%, 50%. They all have to come to you and be vetted, but let's begin thinking about getting some forms ready to do that and a process. Secondly, as assisting many people in this process with applications, we're running into a situation which involves attestation D, attestation C, and what we call page 2. We are often identified as the party to whom a contact can be made. Attestation D, we're now being told we have to sign certain attestations in order to be listed on a certain page. I will tell you that as lawyers, obviously we're going to read everything very carefully. And where it says, I swear, and go through the pre-qualification packet, that everything in it is true, complete, and accurate. I must tell you, as a lawyer, we don't do all of that. We may be a compiler, but we're asking the clients to sign the attestations, the IPs, the SAPs, not us, swearing that it's true. So I'm just pointing out a little problem we're having in the between the various forms, between us as compilers. If they're not going to send us the material that we're asking for, we have a problem, and we're not on notice.
Thanks, Ben. That's all the cards we have?
I think so.
Yep, one more.
One more? Have one more, yeah. Thank you. Tim, is it Schuler? Go ahead.
I'm Tim Schuler with Lelantos Transport, and I wanted to address some issues that were brought up in the public comment. We are one of the 2 fully licensed transporters. We're fully operational. All of our vehicles are listed with DOT. We're metric compliant. We have the ability to service the entire state. In fact, just last week we were talking with a woman up in the UP who wanted service for processing. So we are completely have the ability to service the entire state with our team of drivers and vehicles and ready to go. So to kind of allay some of the thoughts and comments from some of the previous people. We have statewide coverage. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anything else from board members? Don?
Just a couple of comments regarding the group that spoke first off here. Thank you for coming. We do appreciate your comments. We appreciate everyone's comments. Keep in mind, and particularly those folks that are maybe to a meeting for the first time, all this board does is vote on these applications. When we're talking about policies for whatever it is regarding this, that's the department. That's not this board. So I appreciate that you're mentioning it to us. We don't have the ability to make those changes. That's not what we do. Obviously, a highly regulated industry that we're going into, and that's something we have to be very careful of how we proceed. In the